Honestly, I think we can all agree that The Boys is one of those shows to where when it's over and there's no more episodes coming out, it's one of those shows that is going to be in our minds for a very, very long time. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, we are going to be talking about The Boys Season 4, and this will contain some spoilers as I give my little 2 cents of a review here. So yeah, if you haven't seen this season, I highly recommend go checking it out. It starts off a little slow, but I do think it picks up. But yeah, let's get it. Spoiler territory here and now. You've been warned. Don't blame me. So to start off first, I'm gonna give a little 2 second review of the first 3 seasons. Me personally, I would rate season 1 as the best season, even over season 4. I just really like that season. Jensen Ackles is I don't know if I said his last name right, but his Soldier Boy character is amazing. Of course, Anthony Starr and Carl Urban were top notch as usual. They don't miss at all. There's not a single episode that I feel like you can look at in the show to be like, maybe they're acting with they've been on top of their shit like the entire show. So that's good. For to rank them, I guess I would give season 1 about an 8.5 out of 10. I really like how it started off. It really did leave me stunned with the whole A-Train killing of Hugh's girlfriend, Robin, I think her name was. It shocked me because I didn't know the show was gonna be like all bloody and gory like that, because my homeboy had actually been watching it before me, and he told me to you gotta watch this, this show is different. She's going to it. I'm not gonna tell you about it, but you gotta watch it, bro. And I was like, I bet. I watched it, and that took me off guard. I ain't gonna lie. Moving on to season 2. Again, this is quick. I like season 2. I'm gonna give 2 like an 8 out of 10. It was, for me personally, it was a little slow at the beginning, but it does pick up heavily like the 3rd or 4th episode. I really like the Stormfront chick, the racist Nazi. Yeah, I think she was a cool character to hate and despise. So that's my review of season 2. Season 3, I gotta give a 9. Season 3 was damn near a perfect season. Everything you want in the story: action, drama, character progression. Again, like I said earlier, Jensen Ackles is Soldier Boy, hands down one of the greatest characters. I think the only one that goes toe to toe with him is Homelander's. Again, season 3. So season 3, 9 out of 10 easily. All right, to start off with season 4. Like I said earlier, it did start off a little bit slow, but in the beginning, it starts off with Homelander meeting with Newman. That is the head popping chick. She can look at you, make your head pop. Actually, not even just your head, like literally any body part on you just explode and combust. Because she controls blood, from what I understand from her powers and stuff like that. So it starts up with Homelander meeting up with Newman, as she is looking to be elected as VP for the president. And basically, Homelander goes there. He tries to convince her to basically start doing what he wants her to do. Basically, just trying to make his Newman for puppet, and just basically be the guy behind the scenes controlling the shots. Essentially, was what Homelander is trying to do. Meanwhile, the boys are in the back trying to assassinate Newman because MM and the boys have been hired by the president to actually kill Newman in this season, as the president knows that eventually she, aka Newman, is going to attempt to kill the president. Now, while each member of the boys are getting in position, getting ready to, execute another mission that can get them killed in the worst ways possible, Butcher is in an alley, vomited his guts out because from last season, he got a brain tumor from taking way too much Temp V, and now he's having hallucinations of his dead wife, Becca, who died in season 2 by Ryan, Kid Homelander. And basically he's been seeing her everywhere. She's telling him to be a good person and doing that. And later on in the season, we find out that Becca isn't the only hallucination he's been having, and it's actually like an angel on his shoulder and a devil on his other shoulder kind of situation. Butcher is in his pretty much his entire season, but we do figure it out later on. And I'm not gonna lie, dog. I know the people were talking about it and the theories was going crazy on the internet. But when I found out that Joe Kessler's Jeffrey D. Morgan's character was in fact the quote unquote devil hallucination for Butcher, basically Butcher being who he always thinks of himself as a bad person and stuff like that, it did kinda a little bit frustrate me that he was a hallucination, just because I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan is an amazing actor, and I think it would have been fucking awesome to see him interacting with MM and Huey and Frenchie and all of that. I would have loved to see that, but unfortunately he was a hallucination caused by the super cancer, as he called it in the season finale. Anyway, the boys, they infiltrate the mission, and to skip forward a little bit, Kimiko and Frenchie stumble across Newman's daughter, who I think it was in season 2 she got injected. Newman had ended up injecting her own daughter with Compound V, which is of course the stuff that gives the soups their powers. She ended up injecting her with Compound V, and God, man, Compound V really is a lottery ticket. You can get some cool shit like Homelander or Soldier Boy. Like, you can get some dope ass shit, or you can just get some weird ass freaky damn near useless shit like Newman's daughter's powers, or Love Sausage, or the dude who could spit up acid, but he can't make sure he can't touch his own body with the acid or he's gonna kill himself. Like it truly is a lottery. You can get some dope shit, or you might as well have just give that shit back. Like, bro, you never should have gave this to me if I get a weak ass power. So when Newman's daughter had ran into Frenchie and Kimiko, she had ended up revealing her powers after a long wait, and her powers are she can spawn 4 like alien tentacles out of her mouth. And these tentacles can do some damage, dog. Like, don't forget, Compound V, like, I think the baseline powers of what you get is like super strength, enhanced durability, and stamina and stuff like that. So I think that's like the baseline of what pretty much every person who gets Compound V gets. So don't these things are doing some damage. She kills one of the CIA agents. Literally, she just turns his face into a skull. Like, she completely wrecks this nigga. And then she takes off Kimiko's arm, but of course we know that's not a big deal. She's basically the Wolverine on crack, and pretty much nothing can kill this chick. And then they ended up escaping, and then we see Starlight is somewhat able to fly and catch Frenchie out of the window that they jump after, but they ended up missing Kimiko, and she face plants hard as hell on the ground. Her face ends up popping off. You already know what the boys is on. They on some grocery route every episode type shit, and I'm here for it. I'm not going nowhere. So after that ends up happening, Newman ends up running into Huey, who is outside in the van, and they ended up talking for a little bit. But at first it was all just a ploy to use this acid that Frenchie had cooked up, because he's a like a fucking alchemist or whatever. He can cook up shit that can kill soups. But it ends up doing absolutely nothing to her. It just burns a hole in her suit or whatever, and she just gets mildly annoyed about it. And then we find out that she's bulletproof because Butcher sneaks up and domes her right in the head. And I forgot about a Butcher Homelander scene. So Butcher and Homelander run into each other at Newman's rally or whatever, and because Ryan took Newman's daughter to go get ice cream before she had run into the CIA agent. And basically, this is where Homelander finds out that Butcher only has 6 months to live, because he can see inside of Butcher's brain, and he can see the tumor inside Butcher's brain. He literally calls it that big black mass in your brain. And this when Ryan finds out Butcher is dying as well. Of course, Anthony Starr and Carl Urban killing shit as always. They are never not gonna kill shit, in my opinion. Alright, get back to the Newman chick. So Butcher had ended up doming her ass right in the back of the skull, ended up trying to get a KD on her, but find out she is bulletproof like most soups, and she basically tells them like, y'all niggas suck, like y'all like, how are y'all still alive? Y'all fuck up like all the time, which is like true. Is like, how the fuck all the boys still alive? They've literally been so many times where any like strong soup could have just ripped them in half, but they managed to get up anytime. They really should be dead by this point. So fast forward a little bit. Butcher is by himself at the hospital, I believe it is, and here he runs into Joe Kessler, who is played by the goated Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan from The Walking Dead. You know, goated actor, goated for real. We also do get put onto two brand new soups in this season, that being Sage and Firecracker. Firecracker is the one that everybody was starting memes about because she was involved with a 15-year-old. So as you imagine, there were a whole lot of Drake memes going around about Firecracker. And Sister Sage, she's supposed to be the chick who is the smartest person in the world, and basically like her brain is pretty much indestructible, like it can't be destroyed whatsoever. She's just like goes like very stupid for a little bit, but her brain always regenerate. She said the way to actually like kill her off for good is just to destroy her heart. So I think Homelander knows that. I'm pretty sure he does. But yeah, we get put onto these two. The homie Frenchie, he also starts messing with this dude Colin. They get a little thing going or whatever, and Frenchie, he feels terrible about it because years ago when he was still working for that chick Nina, little Nina, she killed Colin and Colin's family and a whole bunch of other families, kids, and that he just killed a whole bunch of people. So now he's starting to feel bad about it, even though he's messing with the dude of the family he killed. Like it's a rough situation. It's weird. All right, I'm gonna fast forward like 3 episodes here to episode 4 because, like I said, it does start off a little slow and not a whole bunch happens. It's basically season 4 is basically a setup season, and I am hoping that we are gonna get some payoff in season 5. But the majority of this season is just basically setting up for season 5 essentially. So I'm gonna skip a couple episodes here. So in episode 4, Homelander goes back to the lab where he was raised at for years and basically tortured at, because when he was a kid, they used to put him in like this oven room and see if his skin would cook and char and stuff like that. And so basically he goes back there because he's been having trouble with trauma and PTSD and all this stuff. And that's basically the whole reason as to why Homelander is the way he is, you know, because he was basically tortured as a baby. So he goes back there, and of course he starts playing a whole bunch of mind games, and it gets real crazy. He plays a waste paper basket with one of the guys who he saw through the window when he was getting cooked alive, literally. And basically, long story short, he ends up putting him in the exact same room, and he cooks a nigga. He cooks him alive, and then he goes on to the Marty guy, who this is some nasty shit. Homelander then goes on to explain why Marty had a nickname for him. He used to call him Squirt back in the day, and from, as you probably guessed from the name, it's because he caught Homelander being a teenage boy and squirting in his pants when he was locked in one of his cells as a kid, and that's where he got that nickname. And he, you know, forces Marty to squirt in front of all his coworkers and basically everyone who's down there. And it's an intense scene. It's a weird scene. It's an amazing scene. It's a scary scene. It's the scene is fucking everything. It's just some weird shit. That's basically what it is. I think by this scene alone, Anthony Starr deserves an Oscar. Like, I think he has proven with this role, he deserves it. Like, give that nigga an Oscar. He deserved that shit pronto. Unfortunately for Marty, he was a older and heavier set gentleman, and he had troubles getting it up for Homelander. Pause. And he couldn't squirt for him. Pause again. And Homelander, of course, keeping his word, he said earlier that he was going to laser his dick off if he didn't get it up for him, and he failed. And he stuck true to his word, and he lasered Marty's cock off. Poor Marty, R.I.P. Marty, because he gets his head stomped in when the barber chick comes from the elevator and tells him, put him out of his misery, and yeah, he gets his head squished like a goddamn watermelon. I do wish they kind of showed it and not chickened out a little bit, but yeah, it is some nasty ass sound effects, I can't lie. We then catch up with Butcher and MM, who go to blackmail Firecracker with the photo of her with the 50-year-old boy. Butcher calls it her little Bieber. He says it real funny and made me laugh a little bit. But yeah, the Firecracker proves to be a thug, and she posts the picture herself, and then she gets on TV and starts telling her how she found the faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and basically what people do in real life. You get caught in situations like that. Looking at you, Diddy. But yeah, she pulls that, and then she exposes Starlight. She exposes her medical records live on TV, and it exposes the fact that she and Huey had an abortion. I believe it was 6 months prior to all of this happening. So yeah, she exposes that. Starlight gets super pissed and flies off to go beat her ass. And I ain't gonna lie, the show sometimes, like especially season 3, has made me forgotten that Starlight do got hands, and she is super strong. So I'm glad season 4 does a good job by reminding you of that. Going back to the lab with Homelander, he has a meeting with Barbara, who is an old lady from back in the day, who was there when Homelander was born, and basically explained like ever since the day he was born, people have always been scared of him, and pretty much he was destined to be their weapon and all that stuff like that, and how they use like the best psychologists in the world to mentally manipulate him into basically doing what they say and always needing their love and approval and all that crazy stuff. And basically by the end of it, Homelander, he goes to the most extreme length possible of proving that he doesn't need them anymore. And he doesn't laser everybody in the lab. He basically pulls them apart, rips them apart. He basically just splatters them in every way that's possible. And he did it all in the room with Barbara and left her locked in there with the door laser shut. So yeah, Barbara's done. I don't think Barbara's getting out anytime soon. So yeah, I think that was one of the better episodes. Like I said before, the first 3 to me was just very slow. This one had a nice pace to it. It had a much better pace to it, I feel like. So yeah, this episode was definitely a W in my opinion. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead to episode 6, which has got to be by far Diddy's favorite episode, because this episode, it's got some problems for sure. It's got some problems. So basically episode 6, we meet this crazy ass universe's version of Spider-Man, basically, whose name is Web Weaver. And in this universe, he is a junkie. He shoots shit up his ass and stuff like that. And of course, all the nasty, gross shit has always got to happen to MM, and he gets spider goo on his face and just literally anytime something just diabolical and despicable happens, it's always to MM. Every single time it is always to MM. Like, I would hate to be in this dude's shoes. So after MM has his nasty ass meeting with Web Weaver or whatever, where he shoots the drugs of whatever the hell it is up his ass, they ended up taking his suit and leaving him passed out there, and they give it to Huey, who has to sneak in to one of their political parties that Newman and Homelander are going to be at. Well, they didn't know Homelander was going to be there until they actually saw him, but they knew Newman was going to be there. And they are basically going to plant bugs and listen in and see what they're plotting and see what their plan is. But of course, knowing the boys, things go horribly left for Huey, and it just sucks a whole lot of ass what happens. So when Huey is in Tech Knight's mansion, he is sneaking around. He bumps into Tech Knight. Now, before watching this, I had no idea Tech Knight was like some huge, massive freakazoid. Because I hadn't seen Gen V yet. I still haven't seen it. I know I gotta watch it. I just haven't gotten around to it quite yet. But I had no idea that he was some massive freak. So going into this, I truly did not know what to expect, and it really did catch me off guard. So you know how Batman's got a Bat Cave? Well, Tech Knight has a Diddler Cave. That's where he ends up taking Huey down in, and it's a whole lot of nasty stuff in there. It's a swing set, and basically it's a Diddy dungeon. And you can imagine the worst of the worst being in a Diddy dungeon. Meanwhile, while that's happening, Kimiko, MM, and Annie are sneaking into the mansion to rescue Huey and get him out of this sticky situation, no pun. But Annie ends up running into Firecracker, and this is after the 2 episodes after she had ended up beating her ass and completely embarrassing her on stage and just leaving her blooded up and stuff. So they ended up talking, and Annie ends up pulling a fake one on her, talking about she's sorry and stuff like that, but she ends up stabbing her in the neck and ends up knocking her out with some drug. And then Kimiko and MM, they run into Sage. That's the super smart chick with the regenerative brain. And, she ends up playing 3D chess on them, and she ends up. This is my guess. I think she coaxes MM into shooting her in the head, because pretty much the only person who knows about her head thing is her and the Deep and stuff like that. So I think she coaxed MM into shooting her in the head on purpose, thinking she would die. But of course she lived. She walked it off. But MM had ended up having a panic attack, which the doctor said if he doesn't stop what he's doing, which is all this crazy shit, that he is gonna have a for real heart attack. So Kimiko has to try to find a way to get A-Train's attention and get him to the hospital, which he eventually does. And he sees it. A-Train, he ends up seeing the kid there who I think it ends up bringing his like breaking point. Is like, all right, let me stop being an asshole and like actually be a human being for once. So yeah, I think that was a good scene. But back down into the Diddy cave, Huey isn't having a good time at all. They made him sit on a cake and shit on it and stuff like that. They got Ashley down there. She being her freaky ass self as usual. Talking about she's 100% a cannibal, like that one guy. I can't remember his name. But yeah, this is a freaky ass episode. I'm not gonna lie. So after Ashley gets done tickling Huey's feet, she literally busts one and then rubs it on Web Reaver's mask, which I know that mask is not like sealant proof or anything, so it's more than likely like seeping through and getting on his upper lip, which is it's just R.I.P. Huey, dog. Like I couldn't do it. Like this would be my last mission if I was Huey. I'm not gonna lie. Especially because his dad just died too after going through his crazy ass VD rampage in the hospital. Like Huey, like this is probably like the roughest Huey's had it like since Robin, like by far actually, I think so. Anyway, after that nonsense, we get even more nonsense with Tech Knight figuring out that Web Weaver is not Web Weaver, but is in fact Huey. So he says he's gonna get Homelander down here and he's gonna rip him apart and all that, but before that happens, he's gotta be a freak one last time and says he's literally gonna cut a hole in his chest and fuck it, like bro. So because apparently Tech Knight has a hole fetish, like a literal hole fetish, like it could be a hole in literally anything. And he's rearing to go. Like a hole in it could be a hole in a piece of paper. It could be a hole in the side of a desk. Any hole is his motherfucking goal, literally. So before Huey could be turned into a human fleshlight, Starlight and Kimiko, they burst down into his secret Diddy lair and they drop kick the shit out of him and they tie him up. But the thing is, he's a masochist and you can't really like fuck him up or like use physical pain on him because Kimiko stabs him and it's like he's being a fucking weirdo about it. So they go about another way of torturing him, which Tech Knight is a billionaire because he's supposed to be like the fucked up version of Batman in the boys universe. We got the fucked up version of Spider-Man and Batman. So he's a billionaire, and the way they torture him is they start donating millions of his fucking money to organizations and shit. And the funniest part is he's a racist, so the one that ends up breaking him the most is they were gonna donate to a Black Lives Matter donation, and that he was just he folded immediately. He crumbled. He couldn't do it because he's a fucking racist. There's a lot of racists in this show that I'm noticing. The last thing that they also find out is that Tech Knight is basically the owner of these prisons, and that Homelander wants to use Tech Knight's prisons for his grand master plan, which essentially is locking up a whole bunch of fucking people that don't agree with him, because this nigga Homelander wants to take over the world, and if you stand in his way, he's either gonna kill you or just put you all in these camps and shit. And that's what Butcher's and Joe Kessler was talking about. So yeah, that just confirms like this nigga needs to be stopped immediately. Speaking of Joe Kessler, this is the episode where Butcher finally figures out that Joe is not real. He is in his head and is a result of the super tumor that is inside of his brain. Basically, Joe Kessler is the evil side of Butcher. This is, Butcher at his most diabolic himself. The all soups must die no matter what. If you got the blue stuff in your bloodstream, like, you gotta go. Like, he's supposed to be that version of Butcher, and the Becca side is supposed to be the good side of Butcher, the side of Butcher that cares about Ryan and Annie and Kimiko, and recognizes that maybe not all soups are bad, but for right now, especially at the end of the season, it seems that Joe's side of Butcher has taken over and it's here to stay. The next episode 7, starts with the Deep in his nasty ass fish gills on his chest, and with his octopus Ambrosius, who he will wind up killing in this episode. Like, it took long as hell. That was kind of funny, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, I'm just sorry. Like, the Deep, his skills just make me sick every time I see him. Butcher also ends up linking up with the boys back at the HQ and tells them that basically what's been going on and what he's been working on. And he's been working with Dr. Samir, who was with them at the farm, episode 5. And basically, Butcher, when everybody wasn't looking, I don't know how he even had the time to do it, but he was somehow able to cut off Dr. Samir's leg and imprison him, so he can force him to make more of the super virus that can kill them. And in the last episode, we found out that the only way to make the virus strong enough to kill Homelander is if it would spiral out of control and basically turn into COVID-19, but for soups only, and it'll be super deadly to people who have V in their system. And that's bad because that's literal genocide. Not only would it like kill Annie, Kimiko, Ryan, the good people, it would also kill like just the babies who were born with who they put V in. So it would kill a lot of people. So but that's when Butcher gets real hesitant and why he's telling the boys now. After a little bit of talking, then reunites Butcher as the leader of the boys, and Butcher is now in top dog and he's now leading again. And him, Annie, and Huey all head out to a mission to the shifter's apartment, but they don't know there's a shifter. And they discover that their plan is to assassinate the government, assassinate the president. That's been their goal this entire time. Also, leave it to the boys to come up with the most disgusting, atrocious powers that you've ever seen. The way that the shifter chick works, the chick from X-Men, she basically, when she touches you, makes physical contact with your body, she morphs into you, but it's under her skin. And the way she morphs is she has to literally rip her damn skin off, like literally tear it off to morph into another person when she touches them. Like the boys has the worst power set you could ever have in the history of powers. I swear it does. Like, for real, like when it comes to Web Weaver, Love Sausage, and this chick, like I wouldn't want Compound V just off the risk of getting some bullshit like this. Like this would be terrible to get. I don't want nothing to do with this. Speaking of Web Weaver, he is in the next scene with Homelander and Firecracker. He was being interrogated by Firecracker and questioned for how the boys managed to get his suit and how they infiltrated, and exactly what happens between him and Butcher and stuff like that. And for the first time in the show, we actually get to see Homelander finally like rip somebody apart with his bare hands, or not just laser somebody or have it be off screen. Because keep in mind, every time we've seen Homelander kill people, he's literally either lasering people or it cuts away from him and then everybody is just in chunks and pieces because it happens off screen. But for the first time, we actually get to see that mug on screen, and it was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I do hope we see a lot more of it in season 5, but I do think they are. I think in season 5 they're gonna since this is the final season, they're gonna go completely balls to the wall and nuts to butts, just go crazy, just throw everything at the fucking wall and see what sticks. And I'm ready for it. After that, the Deep and Black Noir attack Annie and Butcher at the headquarters because after the Deep had ended up killing his side octopus, I guess you can call it, Ambrosius, he's been kind of on a new mode and a new way of thinking with everything he's been approaching. So now he tells Homelander like, oh, I'll kill every fish in the ocean if you want me to. Like, I'm ready to crash out. So, but yeah, basically that's what's going on. The Deep is basically trying to crash out, and he goes to Annie and Butcher and fights them. And it's a pretty good fight. I'm not gonna lie. They throwing hands. It wasn't on hero gasm level of hands throwing with Homelander and Soldier Boy and Butcher, but it was pretty fun. It was pretty good to watch. As they're fighting and throwing hands, there's a part where Annie is about to get her head crushed by the Deep, but he ends up getting intercepted by A-Train, who finally exposes himself as the leak who's been leaking all the information for the boys. They figure out that A-Train is the reason why the boys knew about most of the plans and where they were going to be and stuff like that. And so A-Train and the Deep ended up squabbling and getting into it, and A-Train beats his ass. Of course, the Deep cannot lay a single blow on A-Train because he can move up for speeds of like, I think they said like 11 to 1200 miles per hour. I mean, like, for any normal speedster, A-Train is slow as shit. Like, he is slow. He is nothing compared to the Flash. But like in just the boys universe, yeah, he's got that. Except for like Homelander and stuff like that, of course. Now to get into the season finale, the season 4 finale. It was pretty good finale. It was not what I expected. I do still think the season 2 finale is the best finale overall. I think the finale in season 2 is the best part of it. Season 3 finale, while I understand why it's like kind of stupid, I did enjoy like the action part of it. So the season 3 finale for me up there is pretty much up there for me. The episode starts off with Ryan running away from Homelander because Homelander found the picture that Butcher had sent to him in the last episode. It was him and his mom, who he accidentally killed in season 2, and Homelander saw it, and you know, he freaked out like he usually does and blew a giant hole in his own bedroom. And Ryan ran away and went to the hospital where Butcher is with Grace Mallory, and there, after spending time playing some Connect 4, I'm pretty sure it was, Mallory decides to, for whatever reason, rush forward and just dump all the information that Homelander is a murderer, he's not a good guy, he's a rapist, he's all these terrible things. And the whole time Butcher's like, Grace, chill out, dog. Like let's give him 2 seconds to process it. And for whatever reason, Grace was like, nah, like he needs to hear this now, like right now. And Butcher's telling her to chill, but she's like, nah. And Homelander Ryan, he ends up like freaking out and like, nah, my pops ain't like that. He chill for real. But we all know he not chill for real. So he ends up super pushing Grace into the wall, bashes her skulls in, ends up killing her. And this pretty much ends up being the breaking point for Butcher to say, you know what? Yeah, like all soups, y'all gotta go now. It's wartime. The season pretty much ends with Homelander becoming the pseudo president because Newman actually does not make it past this episode. She gets killed very, very graphically and shockingly by Butcher. Like, seriously, I did not expect Newman to go out like that. I thought she was gonna make it at least till season 5. Like, I did not know she was just gonna get obliterated and ripped in half like that. Like, I don't know, maybe it rubbed me a wrong way too, but I think I'm only thinking of that because Claudia Dormet is, you know, she hot, she's fine. That's an attractive woman right there, and you know, it hurts to see a woman go like that. But Claudia Newman is dead. She's gone. She's out of the picture. The head popper is officially out for the count. And Sister Sage returns in the last moment after getting fired by Homelander in the last episode, and she tells them like, "Hey, this is all according to plan. Look, the old president's getting arrested because he got framed saying he should have killed Newman, but of course we all know that Newman was gonna kill him first, but the people don't know that." But everything ends up going to Homelander's favor, and he basically have the president and the government's full support. And because of that, the boys, except for Annie, because she managed to take off and fly away, everybody gets kidnapped except for Annie and Butcher. Huey's gone, MM's gone, Frenchie's gone, and Kamiko is gone. They got took by the Gen V kids. I really gotta watch Gen V. I gotta catch up on that. But yeah, that's the season finale. Crazy season finale. Like I said, the season started off a little too slow. I am glad that they released the first 3 episodes the first week. If we had to wait for 1 week each for those first 3, I would have been a little bit upset for it, but it turned out fine. 1 good episode doesn't make up for a whole season, but still, all in all, I would give this season a 7.5 out of 10, which by my standards is not bad at all. Like, that's more than decent, more than average entertainment. That's still a pretty good time in my book. But besides that, there's some crazy shit happening, and I'm sure it's going to be even crazier shit in season 5. I can't wait to see what Eric has in store for us. Alright, that's going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed, you know what to do to that subscribe button. Peace out.